Hi everyone, Rosh Chodesh Tov. Today is Rosh Chodesh Nissan, which is probably one of the most important Rosh Chodesh celebrations of the year. It's actually considered the first day of the Jewish year. And I know what you're thinking, Rosh Hashanah is the first day of the Jewish year. Everyone knows that. It's right in the name, Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year. But actually the Jewish calendar is one of the very few, and possibly the only calendar, that actually has two New Years. So we read in the book of Exodus, V'yomer Hashem el Moshe v'el Aaron be'eretz Mitzrayim lamor hachodesh hazeh lechem rosh chodeshim rishon hu lechem l'chadshei hashana. And the Lord spoke unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. God then gives the Jewish people their very first mitzvah, which is the blessing of the new moon. So Rosh Chodesh Nissan really speaks to the very concept of Jewish time. This is the beginning of everything. This is the moment. This moment when God is speaking to Moses and Aaron is really the beginning of the Jewish calendar. And it sets off the very first cycle of Hebrew months, which we have followed ever since. It's not the first of Tishrei, it's the first of Nissan, which means that Nissan is the very first month that the Jewish people ever observed or counted or were even aware of. And let's look at the Torah context, so it all makes sense. In the Torah Timeline, God is speaking to Moses and Aaron just about 2 weeks before the Exodus from Egypt, and we all know that this is the formative act that leads to the creation of the Jewish people. So Rosh Chodesh Nissan is where it all begins for the Jewish people. This is where our origin story starts. It's said that though God created the world on the first of Tishrei, he decided to create the world on the first of Nissan. So quickly moving from the historical to the spiritual, the energy that we want to embody in Nissan, which comes from the movement of the Exodus, is all about freedom. After all, which holiday is coming up very, very soon in Nissan? Passover. And Passover is this physical celebration and acknowledgement of this major moment of spiritual and physical release and renewal for the Jewish people. You know, the Exodus, release from literal slavery in Egypt, and complete renewal as a free and empowered group of people who can now make the choice to embrace Hashem and to restart their history. So one question that I like to think about on Rosh Chodesh is, how can we bring the energy of this month down to each of us personally? How can we think about Rosh Chodesh Nissan, not just by learning the facts and the history and the stories of the month, but actually feeling that those stories and facts relate to us, that we are today standing in this spiritual moment just like our ancestors did? Well, this is really the central goal of the holiday of Passover, is to feel that we're actually in the story, right? We were slaves in Egypt, and we were freed from bondage. But this is much easier said than done because we've never experienced the true physical slavery of our ancestors. So what can we do to feel like we're actually there? Well, what's cool about Passover is that it's not just a spiritual holiday, it's a very physical one. And it affects how we eat and how we sit and how we live our lives. Preparing for Passover is a very physical task, as we all know. We search our homes for crumbs, we move all our furniture, we reach underneath, we scour our ovens and our stoves, and we cover our counters, and we clean out every little bit of Hemets to make sure that we're prepared for the holiday. Now last year, Rosh Chodesh Nissan was the first Rosh Chodesh experience that we actually had to cancel because of COVID. And I had prepared an in-person activity that we never got to do. So this year, in this very abbreviated format, I want to share a quick version that we can all do at home with just a few minutes of spare time. So what I'd like you to do is sit down and think for a moment about something that you'd like to leave behind, which is your own kind of personal crumb of Hemets, which could be like a habit or a quality, a toxic friend, or a bad patch in a relationship, or just anything that you're really not happy with at the moment and that you'd really like to see change. Now write that thing down on a piece of paper. I'm going to write something down that I've been thinking about lately. So take a moment to just think about how this thing has affected you or held you back in the past year, and think about what your life would be like without it. And say goodbye to this thing. And now, burn your Hemets. safely. As you can see, I've got some aluminum foil here. I've got my water to dunk it in, and you don't have to burn it. You can just rip it up into little pieces and throw it in the trash. But just kind of perform an act that says, this thing is leaving. This thing is done. I'm destroying this aspect that I don't want in my life. And now take a moment to just feel free. Feel that the burden is slightly lifted. I want to wish a Chodesh Tov to all of you. Have a wonderful month full of spiritual and physical freedom.